be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, 1, 2, 3.
Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today's subject is reasons to be cheerful, 1, 2, 3. And for all the viewers who are currently watching this video, if you've not seen some of my other videos, then please take time to have a look at those, because quite often my videos interlink and work with each other. And if you've not watched any of my videos before, then please remember to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell and stay tuned for the videos yet to follow. So what are we going to look at in today's video is how we consider the use of the gearbox whilst riding our motorcycle out on the public roads. And we try to understand the value of how it can help us to not only make progress, but also to maintain balance and control, and in some cases help with our deceleration, dare I say that. And for the greater majority of motorcycle gearboxes, the gear change lever is located and operated by the left foot. But it wasn't always the case until the early 1970s, when it was common before that for British motorcycles to operate their gear changes from the right foot, with the brake pedal being operated by the left. And due to our friends the Americans, a standardization came about for road safety reasons, and all gear change pedals would be operated from the left hand side regardless of manufacturing country or company. But just be careful, if you do have an opportunity to ride an older bike or British bike or Italian bike, you may find the gear change pedal on the right hand side, and you'll be surprised with the experience as you try to change down and realise you've just locked the back brake. So let's spend a little time to learn about the gearbox. Here we've got a simple 2D diagram representing a 5-speed sequential gearbox as found on many motorcycles. And just to orientate yourselves, to the left hand side under the blue arrow, of course you've got the gear change pedal which runs through the shifter shaft to the opposite side of the gearbox, and through mechanisms internally selects and operates to achieve gear ratios 1 through 5 with neutral between 1 and 2 to give us a gear driven output to the golden sprocket, which of course is the front drive sprocket, which then drives the drive chain, which then rotates the rear wheel via its own sprocket. Now let's look at the information of motorcycle gearboxes, what they are and how to use them, and how it's given to riders throughout their motorcycle journey or career. Reasons to be gearful, part 1. Here we talk about a learner making their way through Mod 1 and Mod 2. No information is generally given to understand the basic mechanics of the gearbox, except that the gear change pedal can be operated up or down, and the position of the individual gears, whilst riding the change-up information is simply put forward as a mechanical action with no guidance of finesse. But it is the down changes which one could argue are the real meat and veg of how we understand the gearbox and how to get the best from it. During Mod 1 and 2, a rider will be advised to try and keep the motorcycle moving while slowing down, but to block change down a few gears by counting to what gear you think is correct for the speed and road conditions. This is basic and generally audited verbally over the intercom to the rider by the instructor as a guide as to what gear they would presume is best for you. And this is okay if you're using a training school motorcycle that the instructor knows, but can be different if you're riding your own machine. The problem with this is if you do not already know which gear is currently selected, then how can you begin to count down the correct number of gears to be changed? Not all motorcycles have gear position indicators, and this block change style can lead a rider to being completely in the wrong gear at the wrong time. Unless you have mechanical empathy, it is unlikely that you will master this skill quickly, or indeed at all. Getting gear selection wrong before a bend can result in a motorcycle running wide or even turning too tight, and both situations are dangerous and can result in an accident. Reasons to be gearful, part 2. Having made it through your license acquisition, you begin to clock up the miles and, as they say, gain experience, which isn't the same as improving. Some people never change or improve from what they learned at the point of passing their test, and this is fine. It's okay. To improve, some riders look towards private companies who self-proclaim to provide advanced rider training, and I have worked in support of such companies as the IM Road Smart and used their own publications in a manner which they expect you to bring their publications to life based on my own expertise and passion. And I would ask, where did my expertise come from? Because it didn't come from the IM. Here is an extract from their associate logbook, which is the same publication that I as an observer would reference to train a rider up to the test ready standard. On page 24 it states, demonstrate an ability to select the correct gear on every occasion. This is impossible for a trainer, an observer, to confirm whilst riding behind a rider who has their own motorcycle, which the observer may have no knowledge of whatsoever. It goes on to say gear changes need to be smooth and accurate at all times. All modern gearboxes today are constant mesh design, which means gears are in constant mesh with each other at all times, and therefore it would be impossible not to change gears smoothly. The factory accurately build the gearbox so that you do not need to be concerned about being accurate. It goes on to say demonstrate an ability to engage the required gear without using drive in an intermediate gear may be advantageous, and this is the same block change method which is instructed during Mod 1 and Mod 2 and therefore cannot be listed as an advanced riding technique. And the part in bold says make all gear changes smoothly, matching engine revolutions where appropriate. Now they include a suggestion of how to create a burst of revs to increase engine RPM to match the newly selected gear ratio prior to re-engaging the clutch with the next lower gear selected. This technique was never shown to me by anyone in my local IM Road Smart group, and when I asked local and national observers to explain or demonstrate the technique, they simply stumbled and failed. And I have myself trained associates for the IM to test ready standard without any mentioning of this technique, and they were able to not just pass the test but pass with a first award, which means this information about advanced level gear changing simply doesn't exist. And it's my observation that in many cases within IM Road Smart, advanced riding techniques are not being taught but merely suggested. And the final sentence here is simply a reference to a Mod 2 instructional training point. Right, let's change up a gear. Reasons to be gearful, part 3. So what is this mystery I see before me? What is this special engine RPM ratio matching technique? There isn't enough time in this video, unfortunately, to cover it, but do look forward to my next one where I shall endeavour to cover it completely. But let's look at the basics of what's been suggested by the license acquisition and advanced rider training bodies alike. They tell you to keep your machine rolling, keep your wheels moving, unless you need to stop. But you may be required to block change, and that could be from 6th through to 2nd if you think it's needed. And was it not always the case when driver training that any period of time your car was in forward motion with the clutch fully depressed, you were criticised for not being in control of the car and it was called coasting? So would it be wrong to say that if a motorcycle is indeed coasting, then surely we are not fully in control of our machine as per the criticisms given to drivers? So how do we stay in full control? Well, we learn to use our sequential gearboxes better, not only to maintain a high level of control of the machine, but to help the motorcycle do the job it was designed to do. In essence, when slowing the motorcycle and wanting not only to reduce the speed, but to be in the right gear for the torque and performance loadings when reapplying the throttle, a rider would close the throttle, applying the brakes, beginning to slow the machine to the required amount, Then, being aware of what the previous RPM level was before closing the throttle, pull in the clutch and blip the throttle enough to raise the RPM above its previous level, and with the next lower gear engaged, begin to release the clutch lever to the bite point whilst watching the RPM reduce on the tachometer. The aim is to have the clutch fully engaged by the time the lowering RPM reaches its previous level. Easier said than done, but please see the next video where hopefully it'll all work out. But by doing this in sequence for every individual gear, not only are you in full control of the machine for longer, but can feel the difference of engine retardation affecting the rear wheel in each successive gear, which means you can balance the use of the brakes with this effect. The end result is to have your machine slowing at a fully controlled rate, being more balanced and easier to ride. And remember, practice doesn't make perfect, but practicing perfectly does. And I was aware before I began this video it'd be quite controversial and raise some opinions. That's fine. In the next video I shall endeavour to demonstrate fully. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe and ring the bell for the next one. But until then, stop coasting, start practicing that mystical gear changing technique, and not only is it right, it sounds right, looks right and feels right. So remember, always think safe, ride safe, and I'll see you on the next one.
Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3.